Hello, I'm Sarah Taylor-Whiteway, the Senior Educational Psychologist in Wandsworth Autism Advisory Service. Today I'm going to talk through how we can support autistic children and young people with predictability and change. We all know that this area of routines and coping with change can be really difficult for the young people with autism that we work with, and I'm going to suggest some ideas for how we can make this a bit better in this short presentation. We're going to start with a short introduction for how autism underlies the need for predictability. Then we're going to think about how we can help autistic children and young people manage changes that happen in their environment, how we can build in them a resilience for change, and finally how we can help them feel more in control of their environment and therefore create that predictability that we know they need. So this diagram explains how some of the difficulties that underlie a diagnosis of autism can lead to this need for predictability and routine. So as we know, social understanding is one of the key features of autism, and what this leads to is kind of difficulties interpreting the behaviour of others around them and anticipating how they're going to behave, and also then the world and seeing this from others' perspective. It can seem like a confusing place for some children and young people with autism and some adults. Understandably, this leads to an increase in anxiety because that person might not be sure how to respond in a situation or know what to expect. And this in itself leads to that need for predictability. As we aren't sure how to anticipate others' behaviours, we might need more predictability in the other conditions in our environment. And this is where autistic children, young people and adults might develop routines and rituals that help them feel that the world around them is predictable. As they develop these routines and rituals, for example, I know that I'm going to leave the house at the same time each day, or I'm going to have the same thing for breakfast each day. It makes the world feel more safe. There's less of those anticipated things that might run them into difficulties. And as we create that feeling the world is safe, hopefully the anxiety reduces, and that will free up some of the brain that isn't worrying anymore or trying to anticipate things that are very difficult to anticipate for autistic people, so that they can process more, they can think more clearly, and they can help to regulate their emotions. So when there is an upcoming change, children with autism might have a tendency to focus on what they don't know about the change and the things that are worrying them. What we can do is try and help them focus on what we do know about this situation. So for an upcoming school trip where we can't control and manage every single aspect of it, what we can focus on is listing some of those things that we do know. For example, my friends will be on the school trip with me. I will visit this museum. We will have lunch at this time. And rather than focusing on what they don't know, so whether they'll be able to take part in all the activities, whether they'll be able to touch the displays. Another tool for helping manage change that we can't control is to make a plan for if it will happen. So an example here is, I don't know if we will go into lockdown again, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to manage not going to the park if this happens. If we do go into lockdown again, these are the things that we have planned to do to make it better. For example, my mum will help me cope. I will have my exercise ball to do movement on. And these what-if scripts anticipate that this change might happen, but there is a way of dealing with it if it does. So as we learnt from the diagram at the beginning of this presentation, the need for predictability can help reduce anxiety. We can also hopefully build some capacity to manage these changes. And the best idea for this is to teach the brain to manage surprises that are structured as much as we can. So this is playing games that help the child discover that surprises may not be all that bad, but putting in as much structure as we can. So for example, we will play the first game we find that begins with an R. Or we will eat the fourth piece of fruit you pick from the bag with your eyes closed. So in both of these situations, there's an element of surprise, but there's also some structure to it. And this begins to introduce change in a safe way. So a good way of helping children and young people with autism to feel like they are in control when lots of the world around them feels that they're not is this control chart. So we have a list of things that they can control, for example, what they choose to eat at snack, who they want to say hello to, how long they choose to do an activity in their free time for, where they keep things, and when they do things within certain limits. There's also a list of things that they can't control and can never control. So how other people respond to them, or the weather, or the exact time the bus will come, or whether COVID is shutting their bubble, or even what's on TV tonight. And then what we're trying to do is introduce this idea that some of these things they feel that they can't control, like emotions, are something that actually we can with support, that opens them up to support as well. So examples are my emotions, or how I find the learning in the class, or how I play with my friends at lunchtime, or even what I feel about myself. And this can be a changing document that you add to as time goes on, and you learn more things that you can or you can't control, or that actually you're learning to do together. And another idea for helping to build this sense of control is to plan everything that you can. So plan a time for worrying. Give 30 minutes for all those thoughts to come and just let them happen rather than trying to fight them. A time to watch the news. If this is something that raises anxiety, then we can try and put it in at a specific time in the day. Plan even a time for positive thinking to help build this in, that they know that this is happening once a day at a certain time. Try and build this skill. Always trying to plan a time for physical exercise, knowing that's really important to balance out some of those emotional regulation needs. A time to relax. They'll know when that's coming up, and that happens as much as possible the same time each day. Even a time when they have to talk to their friends, which that difficulty in social understanding and that difficulty anticipating what's going to happen can be kept to a defined time each day. And finally, always a time to do my favourite activity. So a flow activity that really engages that child and challenges them a little bit. And they know when that will happen each day as well. And this will help it be easier with the things that we can't plan for, fitting in around these. And always remembering that every single child with autism and without autism is different. So trying some of these, adapting them to the child or young person that you're working with, and if they don't work, trying something else, giving it a go and being creative as much as possible. Thank you and good luck.